everybody. So this one, it's the second to last meeting that I have planned. Next week I'll be away, as Sue and I were talking about. And I don't know if I'm going to resume it in the new year because I'm taking my my time down to 50% just to make the WiNDC money last a little longer. So I'll give it a little thought. I'll see what I do. I don't know.
Maybe as a monthly, or I guess I don't know, or just maybe just meet as needed based on project.
Yeah, I'm also hoping to pick up some teaching, which should be helpful. The jobs reports came out. Always always fun to look at. All right. So what I've been doing is I've been working on the household data because that is the next thing, I guess. So let me hit share. Teams lets me just share the team screen. I don't know why. Seems like an interesting choice. Okay. So let me zoom in a little bit. The first thing that I like to do, so the first thing I did with the household model is I looked at all the parameters in the state model and the household model, and I just compared them because I want to see what's changed. I want to see what the differences are. I want to see what's new. That way I have an idea of what I'm going to need to do. And essentially, most of the parameters, I'm just scrolling kind of slowly, are unchanged. That's the second column. And the other ones are new, which is great. Oh, hold on. Space heater. And most of them are new, which is great because then it's not so hard. It's not a problem of disaggregation, which is nice. The only one that really changes is the capital tax rate or the capital demand, and that's because we introduced a capital tax rate, so we just rip that off the top of capital demand, right? So that it you divide it by the tax rate or 1 plus the tax rate, so it becomes basic price. I always forget. Okay, so that was step one. Step two, which I'm currently finishing up, is getting all of the raw data loaded and ready to be used. So like that way when I'm doing C0H, that's disaggregated from, so this is personal consumption, disaggregated by household. And when I'm doing that, I can just, actually I think it's CD0H. I have better notes written down. When I do C0H, the data is ready and I can just go, right? So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm slowly building up a YAML file. Let me open, oh, maybe I can just, wow, okay, that was great. If you control click on a path in VS Code, it'll just open it for you, which I always forget.
Including super helpfully in error messages, which is really good.
Yes. Which I see a lot, which is good to know. So I'm just slowly building up a YAML file, just sort of keeping track of what I need for each input of raw data. So census API key, this is not a sensitive key, they're free, and they don't really restrict you from accessing data, so I don't feel bad sharing it. If this were like Google, I would hide that, of course. But census, it's not a big deal. I'm keeping track of the maps that I use, years that I'm pulling. I'm just pulling 2024 data at the moment, just to speed up this process. Because if I do all the years, it just takes longer. So I don't want to do that. But you see, there's several pieces of input data. We have stuff coming from CPS, NIPA. This gets combined to make some data. Commuting data from the ACS. I think 2020 is the most recent year that they have. So kind of impute from there. And then a lot of Medicare data. This stuff I'm currently pulling locally because the R file that Drew has shared with me doesn't produce the file that Drew shared, which is fun. I think I have it recreated. I'm just off a little bit. So I'm just trying to get that to be perfect. All right. So let's see here. let me look at.
Are you going to end up talking about how the different data is used to generate the split at some point?
I don't think I'll do that today. I'll do that in 2 weeks. I guess it'll be done next week.
Okay.
Hopefully, in 2 weeks, I should have this done and pretty. Hopefully. Okay, so let's talk about how this helps me build the initial table. Because the first function that I like to write is initialize the table, because that is going to give me something to work with, right? So I've just went through, this is the documentation string. I've just gone through here and essentially pulled out every single one of these. Like sectoral supply is not a real one. Household production is, and household supply is what it's called over here. So just a direct translation. Here's a pro tip for VS Code. If you highlight stuff and you hit Control-Shift-P to open your command palette, you can just sort. It'll just sort them. It's very nice. I use that all. I don't think it lets you drop duplicates like that, but I just sort and then I can drop duplicates. Because essentially the way that I made this list right here is I looked at the model and I pulled all the parameters from the model because those are going to be the important ones. I grabbed all my sets and then my initialize table function just have the parameters, the sets, and then I just extract all that information. I'm dropping anything that has to do with personal consumption because that's going to get blown apart. And then I just give myself the table. You might be wondering, have I talked about what this regularity check is? I don't think I've ever talked about that. So in a table, here, I'll show you the state table. Okay. So a table that I have consists of 3 components: the actual data, the sets, and the elements. So the first one is, and you can extract those, right? You could do table, state table, that's the data. You do sets, state table, and you could do elements, state table, and they give you exactly what you'd expect, right? And if I look at a set like trade, that's the name of the set and then the description. It tells me which column it lives in. And that column is in the table right here. So if I did this and trade, it knows that it's going to look at, this, what are the words I want to use here? It's going to look at the sets. It's going to know what column it has to use. Then it's going to look at the elements. It's going to pull out the ones, and it's just going to extract those right there from the correct column. So it's kind of doing a little bit of intelligence on the back end. But that kind of requires all these tables to be linked together. So if I do, like, for example, in my sets, if I made a typo here, like I put column or something, then when I type traded, it's going to give an error. So what that regularity check is doing is it's making sure that everything in a column is an element, things are coming from the correct sets, all the sets have the right domain, things like that. It's basically a sanity check to make sure you're not missing something silly. That's really all it's doing, and it's optional. You can exclude it. So that's part of WiNDC container, so it's a little bit more general than most things. Okay. A lot of this is translating R files. So Drew knows R quite well. And I have this guy. So for example, get CPS, this came from Drew. Excuse me, I thought I was going to sneeze. And essentially it's, let me go to the top. It connects to like the census and BE APIs, and it just pulls down all the raw data. Drew is very good at R, but I think he wrote this quickly because he has to get on with it. So there's some things that can be made faster and made more efficient, which I've been working on. But as is, this file isn't too bad. It's only, oh dear. It's like 800 lines, but most of these are graphs. So this sheet I have real good. What's the next one? The ACS one, I've simplified quite a bit. Nope, that's not right. Yeah, so basically what I've been doing is going through and translating all of these, pulling down the correct data. And there's a lot of annoyances. Like we are including Medicare and Medicaid data. That data goes from 2009 to 2019. And then we have other data, ACS data, that goes from 2009 to 2024, but it skips 2020 because of low response rates. So we have to do some estimations in there. And that's one of the places that the data that I'm pulling in is a little different than what Drew has. So I'm sending him emails just to be sure that I'm doing it correctly. It's just tedious because what I do, I can look at the output here. I also look at, do I have anything open? Yes. So this is Python. You can tell right here. It's a Jupyter notebook. There's a package called GAMS transfer. Does anybody use this? Familiar at all? Just from me.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it essentially allows me to open GDX files in Python. So this is a GDX file. And then what I can do is w.data. And there's everything that's in the CPS data.gdx. So this exports everything that's going to be from there. And if I look at, I can show you exactly where this file is created, where this GDX file is created. It is in WiNDC build, household. I'm going to guess it's CPS data. Scroll down. Yep, right here. CPS data.gdx. So this is pulling in data from the CSVs and then doing stuff with it, right? So it's just doing stuff. It's like pulling things out and assigning it in the correct spots. So what I do is I'll open this up. And so I'm just opening CPS. I'll be like, okay, I want to be able to duplicate these parameters. And, okay, let me make, oops, no, cancel. Let me close this, 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 and this. So that's exactly what I've been doing. And I believe I need my, oh, I have a lot of stuff open. Holy cow. I believe that is NIPA CPS. NIPA. Nope. Oh, man, what did I call it? I think please say I didn't delete it again. That'd be so smart. So what I do is I write a function. I'm just dumb, it's right here. I just didn't give it a name, CPS data. Sometimes you're too smart for your own good. This is the data that should be replicating CPS data, and I called it CPS data. I'm so smart. Okay, so I want this data. I've made it into a single data frame because I can do that. I want it to match this data exactly. To check that CPS data, a subset, I want, I've forgotten exactly what I'm doing. I can scroll up though. WiNDC, because it's coming from WiNDC. I'm just going to pull out the one that's for interest. Interest. Oh, I actually did it. Check that out. If you're on, I should walk through this again. This essentially means that CPS data is X. I'm really doing a subset of CPS data. Take the column WiNDC, search by row, pull out the ones that are just equal to interest. So you can see WiNDC only has interest now. This and this do not have the same sorting. So because I'm in the REPL, I can just hit the up arrow, just like a terminal. I want to sort this by state and HH. Yes. So I just put the order that I want to sort them. This one and that one. So Alabama 2004, interest, household one, boom. That's great. That's exactly what I want because they match perfectly. Same with Wyoming at the bottom. And I think the most fun thing here that I've observed is if you sort by value, the people making the most on interest are the rich people. That's kind of what you expect, right? Except in California and Texas, when the second households are also pretty good. Okay. Cool so far. Let me think of what else. Okay. Oh, there we go. I think I can close most of this. YAML, this. Okay, cool. Now it should be a little bit easier. Okay, so that's what I've done so far. The next step, so what I'm doing is I'm looking at build. I look at build. This is the CPS data, because what it's doing is it's taking HH data, which starts as CPS, and then it looks at CPS data.gms, and that's what it runs. Not super intuitive. And then it calibrates. So the next step is calibration. And Drew has written this to be really dynamic and really like responsive. And what I've done is I'm stripping all of that out, and I made a new file called minimal. That is all it's going to do is it's going to do CPS data in the year 2004, so I can compare. If 2004 works, it's very likely that I can add the years back in and just do a join, and it'll just sort of work. So my goal now, this is where capital demand changes. It's just, like I said, division by the tax rate. This is the next big thing for me to tackle, because if I scroll and I scroll and I scroll and I keep scrolling and I keep scrolling, it gets better. I just have to find it. Here it is. Eventually, we're gonna start balancing income, and that goes through in a little optimization model. It's not too complicated. There's just a lot of variables and stuff like that. But this should not be a problem. I just have to type it in. And then there's another one. If I keep going lower, oh my goodness, there's so much. And then there's a second one for capital, I believe. Our consumer demand, that's what it is. I get my C's confused. So there's two balancing routines within this, just one for consumer demand, one for income. Just make sure that things stay balanced as they go. This isn't balancing the entire data set, just a little piece of it. Because essentially what we're doing is taking PCE and breaking it apart. We're taking labor and we're breaking it apart. So things kind of get out of whack. But this slaps it back into place. And then that's it. These are all the new things that get spit out. And I'm pretty sure that these match what I had in my other document of new parameters. I think there's a couple more. I also plan to give these actual names. For example, I will not be keeping this, because this is just an aggregated version of this. I believe I have it on a piece of paper underneath my clipboard. Yep. And so that's the idea there. I should ask if there are any questions, comments, anything about household data. Eli does.
I'm just interested in sort of like, there's a lot of steps in there. There are like a bunch of constants that you scrolled past.
Yep.
What is going on? So basically, you're taking this sort of individual household per state, representative consumer, and splitting it into 5 income levels, which also means 5 endowments of labor, 5 endowments of capital. You're adding a new capital tax, or you're splitting
Yep.
the
We
capital
don't have
tax.
capital tax in the data at all.
So adding a new capital tax. Is it like, if you look at that last list of variables, does that sort of suggest what the new things are? Like, what is H, and
Which one? H?
like just in order, any of them?
Oh, H is a set that
It's just
the
household.
households, HH1, HH2.
And then
TRN is transfer payments to set.
okay, so splitting transfers between the different households is new.
Savings rate. I had it in that markdown that I made go away.
Because most
yeah.
of it is split from data that was already attributed per state house, like representative household, but some of it is brand new, basically just the capital tax. Is that the only thing that's added as opposed to split?
I don't think so. Yeah, so the problem is that I'm trying to, like you said, there's a lot of sort of magic numbers in this.
Yeah, what the?
It's mainly for data that's missing,
Yeah.
like data that's just not available, and it's based on literature that Drew found.
Sometimes I think it's good to have like I guess that's not going to change, but yeah, some
Yeah.
section at the top that says like, here are the constants that we use to blah blah blah, and then
Yep.
they all have variable names or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to plan to do in the document strings,
Yeah.
because that's kind of the right place for it, being like this, and this is introduced. That way we can follow it later. I may also put these in the YAML file.
Yeah.
So that way you don't have to modify code when you want to update them. You can just update the data there, and it will just carry on,
Yeah.
which I think is a good strategy.
Yeah, I think my other questions were, you said you might cover it in a couple of weeks, like
Yeah.
what data is getting used to split what, sort of just interesting. But yeah.
Yeah. One of the problems is that it's all kind of mashed together in this file. So that's no. I'm working on. I take a comb and I just sort of try to smooth it out so I can see what's going on. It gets worse if I look at. So this is the original household calibration file before I stripped out a bunch of stuff.
Wow.
And essentially, I'm trying to strip out anything that's displaying stuff like this. That's just displaying like aggregate data to make sure that it's. So you establish the baseline or make sure that things are zero. I have other ways to do that.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of sections like this, because Drew has an option to either load it with SOI data or CPS. And since I'm just focusing on CPS, I'm essentially, I just delete that so it doesn't confuse me later. So that's one of the big differences. I've also talked to Drew about the SOI data, and I think he says it's not being updated anymore. Like the last time it was updated was like 2018 or 2019. So I don't think it gets used much.
What is SOI?
I forget what CPS stands for.
That's a tax thing, right?
Yeah, it's I forget off the top of my head.
Current population survey.
Yeah,
But it, like surveys of economic, whatever.
survey of interest. Yeah.
There's the statistics of income.
So, yeah, there we go.
From IRS is SOI.
Yeah, from IRS.
Yeah.
Yeah, their current population survey.
There we go.
That's not like.
Yeah, the way my mind works is I write it down and then my brain dumps it. I have it written. I have all that stuff written somewhere. It's just no longer in RAM. So I forget. All right. So that's the main thing that I'm doing. And I think this is kind of dry. Give you guys something that's actually useful. One of the big things you do in disaggregation is you disaggregate by shares.
Yeah.
Okay, the question becomes, how do you do that? So the way that I would start doing it, so I should ask how I'll do the teaching thing. How would you guys disaggregate this? Let's say you just wanted shares by row, right? So this should be 1/2. This should also be 1/2. This one should be, it's always weird when AI figures out what you want, right? Because I want to sum over the rows, and I want the shares by the column. So it'll be this divided by the sum of those two, and this divided by the sum of those two.
Shouldn't the A and the by A and B? Oh, I see. Like right. Okay,
So the
that's-
way that I would do this, oh, sorry, Eli, go for it.
No, nothing.
The way that I would sort of naively do this is I would create a new data frame, group by. So I can group it by the rows, because then each value in the row is going to be the same. And then AI can fill it in for me. It knows what to do. It just takes the sum. So the way in Julia that this works is I'm taking the column. This is just a function. Sum is a function. It's not a special thing. I can put anything I want there as long as it's a function. And the column name at the end. So now I have total 2, 3. And then what I could do is I could do an inner join of VF total on row. So join them together. And you'll never guess what I'm going to do now. And it's from. So one of the big problems with AI that I encounter is that it picks up my typos. So I type trans from, suddenly AI starts doing trans from, and I would very much like it to not do that. Okay, I'll do this explicitly first. I'll sort of explain what we're doing here in a second. V comma T. Okay, that's exactly what I want. There we go. So I'm going to explain this code in a second. I just wanted to make sure that it was actually right. 0.5, 0.5, 2/3, 1/3. So that matches what I have here. That's what I want. Did I get that right? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Eli says no. Now he says yes. We're all. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
It's just the shares, not the total final values. Yeah.
So this works. It works pretty well. There's two problems with this. The first problem is that this costs time, and then this costs time. So this is slow. The second problem is that it creates an intermediate step. I feel like I'm going to sneeze again, sorry. This creates an intermediate step. So if you have a huge data frame, now you have two huge data frames. So what's the solution? So this is something that I can't figure out how to do in Python, probably just because my inexperience, and I don't know how to do it in R because I don't know R that well. But what I can do, I'm going to set this up the exact same way I did this. I realize I didn't explain this. It's just taking the value in the total, and then it's going by row. V is value, T is total, and it's dividing. If Julia has a shorthand for this, I could just put the division right there, do the same thing. Yeah, it's very nice. Okay, here's what I can do. I want to take value. Remember what I said I could put any function here I wanted? Well, what do I want the value to be? I want it to be y divided by the sum. This is not what we want yet. it's not what we want. So you can see here, you're like, what are you talking about? It's exactly what we want. The numbers are right. Why is it not what we want? Compare. We were allowed to preserve call. Sorry, somebody's probably going to say that. Really want to preserve call. So we preserve call. Now this matches this, except without the two intermediary columns.
We also need the total, don't you? Need the total ultimately to make the.
The total is right here.
You could have it whenever you wanted.
Yeah.
But like the actual value would be multiplied by whatever.
What do you mean?
I guess you don't need that. You're not actually generating the values. You're just generating the shares
Yeah,
based on the.
A lot of the times you just want the share because you'll take this data frame and join it with another and then multiply. Which is, again, the fewer joins you have to do, the faster your code's going to go. Because joins are kind of slow. Because what it's doing is it's going to search, right? Like this. And this really cuts down on it, which is really cool. But there's a little tip I've sort of picked up. I've started doing this a lot. And if I want to explain this, I should talk about this little dot. Because without that little dot right there, if I delete that, it still works. Okay, I didn't expect that. I'll be honest, that one's surprising.
Because it's by row anyway, maybe.
It's because the sum is a number.
Yeah.
So like in Julia, if I have a column vector, I can take L divided by 5. And that's just coordinate-wise division. But if I try to take L divided by L, that's not what I expected to be. I want to be honest, I expected an error.
Yeah.
I think you have to think of this as like some sort of matrix division. Might be like a tensor operation or something. But if I put a dot, then it does what I expect. It's doing it element-wise. So the dot just means do it element-wise. So whenever I'm working with vectors, the dot is kind of natural because I want it to be element-wise. Because this y is representing that vector. It's representing these two numbers right there as a vector. And this I do all the time. All the time. Like so much so, I bet if I go here and I go here and I go here, I think it is, well, let me scroll quickly. Right here. What am I doing here? I think this is old. I don't think I've updated this. I stole this from the old WiNDC thing. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can do this much more intelligently. All right. This was the old way that I was doing it. So you see, first I calculate the sum. And then I join it back onto itself and do the division. I think what I can do, group by, what do I want? Date and source. Combine. What do I want? I'll have to check to make sure that I actually get it right, but it's essentially going to turn into something like this. So instead of a left join with a bunch of code that gets confusing, it's much easier. And I'll have to check to make sure I get the columns correct. So I'm not going to save this quite the way it is yet. I just want to hit save. But the code will run faster. It'll use less memory. It's a very good thing to do it that way. And also, in the state disaggregation source. I think it's this. Disaggregate by shares is definitely doing it this way. Right. I don't know where it's doing it. It's doing it in here somewhere. Here, I think. Yeah, right there. So you can tell what column it's preserving. So it's adding up all the other columns. If you're unfamiliar with a group by, you just have to think of the group by being the columns that you want to keep at the end. So I want to keep those columns and add up everything else. So typically in like, if you're writing a summation, you put the columns you want to add up. But then on this side, you have the columns you want to keep. You just think, I just want to keep these. Whatever I'm going to do. Yeah. It's just it's the dual problem, I guess, right? Okay. Trying to think, yeah, mainly what I've been doing is getting this to a point where it's fairly stable. One thing I can show off, let me stop and let me share and let me go here. Teams, I really wish you would, there we go. There we go. WiNDC Regional, I have this one released. So you could add this using add WiNDC Regional. I think there's a bug. I have to test this on a different machine. I've mainly been testing on my machine, which is, it'll definitely work on my machine because that's how I've tested it. I have a home server. I'll work on this. I'll test it, make sure that it works. I was just waiting until it gets registered. The first time that you register a Julia package, it takes like 3 or 4 days. And then the second time when you update it, it takes like 15, 20 minutes. So to make sure that it was available and make sure it would work, and then wrote a little script just to test it, make sure that it still builds the data correctly. And I think there's a bug. There's also no README, which somebody commented that I should have that. But the documents are there. Documentation is there. Have I shown off this documentation? I think I wrote this end of last week. I think May is talking, but I can't hear. Yeah, so the WiNDC Regional wrote a bunch of the documentation. I've tried to really explicitly put in everything that I thought would be necessary. So you can just copy this. This needs to be cleaned up because you have to do all of this manually. I don't want that. I want it to just be, you type this line and then it works. That would be much more ideal. That's why it's 0.0.1. After I get that figured out, I'll make it be 0.1. It shouldn't be too hard. It's just making sure all the accounting, it's just accounting for everything. But if you're wondering about data maps, it has these, and it actually has where they come from, like what they do, the raw data, how the data gets disaggregated. Again, I document it in the doc string itself with the actual functions it's using, because I think that's just more, it's easier to maintain. Because when if I actually need to update the disaggregation, I'm going to have that doc string right above that function, so I can just add it easily. And the model page leaves a little to be desired, but in the doc string, okay, teams, you don't need to be, thank you, there we go. Little teams thing was right above where I need to click. The doc string is where this actually lives. So it tells you the parameters that get exposed, how to use those parameters, the sectors and their domains, the commodities, the consumer. And then I have the actual production blocks. So this is the sectoral data for the Y block. If you're like, what actually goes into that, you can click the function, and believe it or not, it tells you exactly what goes in there. So this is all the data that goes into the Y production block. And I've tried to make it very clear about what's coming from where. I've called it Q for quantity. So I tried to make this model be fairly easy to parse and read in MPSG format. Because I figured that's what most people are going to be interested in. They're going to be like, okay, what's the canonical model and how can I update it? And it's pretty easy to update because all you have to do is grab it. Oh, and another nice thing about documentation using Documenter, if you hover over a documentation string like this, and I scroll and I scroll and I scroll, see that little source button? Middle click it, opens a new thing. There's the actual, there it is. There's the doc string. There's everything that does, or everything that goes on. So it's the exact same, unsurprisingly. I've had a few people, I think May has asked me about the use of AI in writing documentation. And it can be super useful. For example, let's say that, let me go, I can't share both at once. Okay, that's annoying. Let's say that you have a long list of stuff that looks like this, right? And you want to translate it into a doc string that looks like this. That's pretty easy to do because in VS Code, if you hit Control Alt and the arrow keys, oh, this is not VS Code. This is GitHub. You can make your cursor go up so you can kind of grab the correct things. But essentially what I did is I typed the word commodities and I started typing PA and it filled in what it thought should be. It wasn't right. But after I got the first one right, it did all the rest automatically. And that's a super good use for AI. Because essentially what I was going to do is copy and paste it. And that's going to be the exact same thing that AI was doing. I love it for that use. And I think, so I've been playing around with the AI a little bit more. And do you guys use, how much do you guys use AI, I should ask?
Not very much, to be honest. I haven't been using it a lot.
Not for coding.
I use AI to correct my syntax error when coding.
I use that a little bit for like if you call it vibe coding, as the Copilot. And I know that there's a codex and probably that's more powerful version of the like helping you to go through all different files and maybe a model like the one that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been playing around with it a little more because mainly what I do is I use it for code completion. And then I'm kind of the opposite with Henry. I have AI write the code and then I debug it myself. So we just use the exact opposite. But I've learned that if you ask the chat, like ask the AI chat and you say, can you generate like boilerplate code for a dashboard? Like with Python, you're like, I want to make a dashboard with the dash package. It'll create all the files and everything you need. It'll just create running code. Which is
So it will create multiple files.
Yeah. It'll create an entire directory structure.
So is that what you're doing with AI?
I've been experimenting with it. I don't know how much I trust it for Julia. I definitely don't trust it for models because it's kind of just stealing my job if it does that. Yeah, that's mainly like hobby stuff, right? So I'm trying to set up. Does anybody know what this is?
Oh, it's like a hardware component of a computer.
Yeah, there's a clue right there. It's a Raspberry Pi with a camera.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just a little computer. What I plan to do is have it automate my garden a little bit. But stuff like that is just useful. Like I want to create a little API so I can have my home server talk to it. And AI gets it 80, 90% of the way there.
But you're gonna do irrigation. What are you gonna automate?
Yeah, I'll be able to take pictures. I'll probably do this start with my seedlings. Take pictures of the seedlings as they grow so I can create a time lapse, automate watering. You know, stuff to keep me busy. Yeah, it's a pretty powerful little thing. It works really well because there's pins, right? There's these pins. You can control these. Essentially are just input output pins, IO pins. So you can send like a signal to a water or water or whatever it's going to do. Yeah, I did this a lot when I was a professor because I had students that I could sick on stuff, and it was great.
Very cool.
All right. All right. I should ask any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I can show you something else you might find pretty cool.
Sure.
This is something I built when I was a professor. And it used to work. I don't think it works anymore, so I'm trying to get it back into working order. This is a clock. So each of the yellow things goes up and down. And it worked really well. And if I turn it around, it's just a bunch of servos connected to wires.
Yeah.
But the problem with it is that it's been sitting for like 3 to 4 years. So the battery has run out on the clock.
Wait, so it activates a line on and off.
Say
It's
that
either
again?
black. So like each line is either black or yellow.
Yep.
And so then the configuration just is like,
They flip up and down.
ah.
Yeah. But the problem is that the battery ran out on the clock. So I have to set the time, and I forget the code to do that, and I didn't write it down, and it was like 5 years ago.
So documentation.
I know, right?
But that's like for like a really really big venue, like if you like in but like if you want like a game clock, right, or something like that, like for
Yeah.
yeah.
One problem that I had with it is that every time it turned, it would be fast. So I want to slow it down, but I go whip. Scare the devil out of me every minute. Ugh. Yeah, I've been pulling a lot of old stuff out. I can just keep throwing this stuff. Ugh. How about this one? Tom would know what this is immediately.
A Bluetooth speaker with an EQ on it.
This is a calculator.
Oh,
What?
really?
It doesn't work so well, but it's 3D printed, and you can probably, I don't know if you hear that, but there's stuff rattling in there, which is always bad. But this is how you set the numbers.
Oh.
Ooh, needs lubrication. But yeah, now that is a 5. So if I turn the crank, the numbers up. Oh, okay, so the crank is currently broken. The numbers would just add up. It's fully 3D printed.
You're the geekiest man I've ever met in my life.
You sound like my students. Yeah, I did that when I first got a 3D printer, like 2017. Yeah, it used to work really well. It's since seized
Can
up a
use the
little bit.
3D printer to print a 3D printer.
Yeah. The 3D printer I have is very old. Prusa. I don't know if Prusa Mark V is out. I have a Prusa Mark II. Okay. Phone. Let me go. This one.
You might want to edit this video before you put it up on the WiNDC website.
Yeah, people will enjoy it. The three views it gets, people will. This is going to be the favorite part. And this is the type of printer that I have, but most of the parts on here are 3D printed. Like
Really?
anything in orange here, this
Oh.
casing. You need some rigidity, so it does have some metal parts,
Mhm.
but you could make that. Like you can just use whatever you want, essentially. So they provide, like, this company provides all the files you need to print all the 3D printed parts. And you could source all the other parts independently. Oh, okay.
That's Meta.
No, it's Facebook.
No, but I mean, uh,
But yeah, it works. Like it's pretty good. And if you're looking for a 3D printer, this is the brand to get, by the way. Actually, which one do you want? This one. Oh, it comes with an enclosure. Yeah, I bought one of these at St. Edward's for a makerspace and three of these. So I bought 3 of these and one of these. This one's smaller. This is the best printer I've ever used. It's just great. It just worked.
yeah.
It worked. It works better than my printer that prints paper.
Nice.
I don't. All right, I should stop just gabbing about stuff that I find interesting. All right, so I should hit. I'll just reiterate. So no meeting next week because I'll be traveling.
Yeah.
And then the week between Christmas and New Year's, I'll do one. And then that might be the last. We'll find out. We'll talk next. We'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Well,
All right.
enjoy
In what
Vegas.
class did
Yeah.
you build the clock?
What?
In what class did you build the clock to do some demonstration to the students?
That one was just for fun. I did build. Oh,
That's pretty
Henry,
cool.
Henry asked the question. I did build this for class. Somebody must have seen one of these.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Galton box. So you get the normal distribution.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Unless you hold it slightly skewed, and then you get a skewed normal distribution.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I used to have a lot more free time. I guess I had summers off or something.
Yeah, that's true.
I had summers off. I think those are mainly my fun toys. All right. I think that's it. All right. If you have anything
Well-
else, let me know.
Okay. But have a good trip. So I might. Well, I'll let you know if I happen to be traveling that Tuesday before New Year's.
If you are, it'll be recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It'll
should
be
be-
recorded, and at the end, I might talk about some cool things that I built. You never know what you're going to get.
But you going to Nevada, you said?
Yeah, Vegas is really cheap during Christmas, and it's not 0 degrees.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some hiking in the desert. My
Awesome.
mother-in-law said, make sure Katie comes back. And I said, what if I don't come back? And she said, that's fine.
It's
No,
up to
she
her.
said both come back. Yeah, go see petroglyphs. Should be pretty cool.
No, that sounds great.
All right. Well, happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, happy holiday.
Yeah, happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Yeah, have a nice
Celebrate.
trip, Mitch.
Celebrate however you do.
See you
All
guys.
right. So long, everyone.
Take care, y'all.
Okay, bye.
Bye, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.